Good evening, all, and welcome once again to this month, August, in Conversation with Show, hosted by myself, Michael McGrath. Conversations that bring truly remarkable, fascinating, and interesting people from all walks of life with stories and with insights to share, generously giving of their time in support of the Muscle Health Foundation charity. Conversations that hopefully entertain and uplift the charity's beneficiaries, children and young people between the ages of 8 and 28 with the muscle wasting disease, muscular dystrophy, and their families. Conversations to help the charity reach new audiences in amplifying its work and its impact. And conversations that inspire, I hope, donations and desperately needed support at this time in helping the charity push on with its mission to deliver 657 muscle dream interventions, moments in time, one magical, often life-changing, cherished experience for every muscle in the human body. That's why the number 657 matters so much to us. So if you're tuning in for the first time this evening, maybe you've got a special connection or a link with our guest this evening, or perhaps you've already got a question lined up. Either way, welcome wherever you are on Mother Earth. And as always, to all the amazing mums and dads, the extraordinary uncles and aunties, the wonderful brothers and sisters, the supportive PAs and carers, plus our charity friends, thank you all for tuning in this evening. Thank you all for doing what you do. So before we kick off, a few quick housekeeping points. Firstly, a little safeguarding note. As always, we have eyes over tonight's show streaming live on the charity's Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn social channels. So if any inappropriate comments are observed, action will be taken. And secondly, all shows are recorded so audiences here in the UK or anywhere else across the globe can watch previous episodes at their leisure. As always, we aim to please. And you're all invited to check out the charity's YouTube channel. Search for Dreammaker 657. Don't forget the double M in the middle, and hit the subscribe button so you can see the impact, the work that we do here in this charity with many, many muscle dream films that we hope will perhaps move you to make a donation at some point in the future, maybe £1 or maybe £5, whatever you can give will make a difference. And from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. And if you're a business looking for a charity to adopt, perhaps you've got some creative, innovative fundraising ideas in how to leverage our magic number 657, or maybe we can play a part in supporting your company's CSR strategy from giving some of your employees a volunteering experience like no other, to organizing some creative 657 fundraisers. Either way, please do reach out. And let's see how we can support your brand, your goals, your aspirations, your charitable aspirations. You know, we're all feeling the pinch a little bit, increasing living costs, food and fuel inflation, and so on. You know, we're living in uncertain times. But as I've said before, the charity's work must prevail. We must go on with our work. You see, our vulnerable beneficiaries and our families, they really need us, especially at this time. So if you'd like to explore what a partnership looks like, what it feels like, or perhaps you're a high net worth individual with a bias towards supporting smaller charities, looking to support a compelling cause perhaps, so that more stories can be told, more lives can be positively impacted. If that resonates in any way, shape or form, please reach out and let's see where we go. So, onwards with tonight's show. And have we got a treat in store for you all this evening? In case you missed it, here's the title of tonight's show: Blood, Sweat and Wheelchairs. Now there's a title that's deserving of an award, right? Starring gold medal winning Paralympic champion and someone who's also scaled a wee dormant volcano in Africa. We'll come on to that a little bit later in the show. Please give it up for a very warm welcome to Aaron Phipps. Aaron, hi, good evening to you. Welcome.
Hey Michael, how are you doing?
Very good. Delighted to have you with us tonight's show. And before we kick off, I've got to ask, Aaron, where are you in the UK tonight?
I'm in, well, I was going to say sunny Southampton, but the weather's changed a little bit. We've got rain now, although I think we need it. I think this is a good thing. You know, you get old when it starts raining, you think this is going to be great for my garden. But yeah, it's I'm down in Southampton on the south coast in the UK.
Excellent. Now, for those that don't know, if you've got a question lined up for Aaron tonight, you know what you need to do. Post it on whichever channel you're watching on, be that Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, and our studio team will pick it up. So, Aaron, let's kind of wind the clock back briefly to your BMXing days and skateboarding. Your, by the sounds of it, your normal childhood, right? And
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
to the 7th of January 1999, where you woke up with flu-like symptoms. Tell us more.
Okay, so growing up, I came from a kind of 2.4 children family household. I lived with my mum and my dad and my younger sister in a terrace house in Southampton. My dad was a welder and my mum worked in the school, and really lovely childhood, you know, a lot of love. We didn't have all the best designer trainers, but we had everything we needed. And, you know, my mum and dad did the absolute best that they could. But yeah, my world was turned upside down on that date. It was the first day back to school after the Christmas holidays in 1999. So all those years of school, and I missed the most important bit on the run up to my exams, but there we go. And I got home from school that day and I told my mum that I didn't feel very well. And my sister and her friend were going off to watch the pantomime at the local theatre. I was too cool to be going to a pantomime, so I stayed at home anyway. And I went up and got into bed, and as you alluded to, I had flu-like symptoms. But it was January, so there was lots of illness around. We didn't think anything of it. I was wrapped up in a quilt, shivering, as you do when you've got a temperature. And I finally got to sleep, and I woke up twice in the night, and I vomited, and I cleaned my teeth and went back to bed, as you do when you're poorly. My dad woke me up in the morning to see how I was, and I said I didn't feel great. I got up to go to the toilet. I collapsed on the landing. So my dad heard me fall down, so he ran upstairs, scooped me up, put me in my parents' bed, and that's when he thought, you know, this is something much more serious.
Just remind me, what age were you when that moment in time happened?
Yeah, I was 15, so 15 years old, and
Yeah.
And it was that time in your life, you know, when you're not an adult yet, but you're not a child anymore.
Yeah.
So I was in that in-betweeny stage, that weird stage where I had a front door key. I could come and go as I pleased. Had a job working at the local pub, meeting all these exciting new people, just washing pots, but meeting all these cool, new, exciting pub people. And, you know, I became very poorly very, very quickly. So my mum saw a rash appearing on my chest just here. And she kept asking my little sister to bring a glass because she vaguely knew the symptoms of meningitis. My sister didn't understand, so she kept bringing a glass of water. And mum was saying, no, just a glass. So if anyone knows, one of the tests to test for meningitis, if you see a rash, is to do the glass test where you place the glass down on the rash. And if it doesn't disappear, it's potentially meningitis. So my mum did this. The rash didn't disappear. So she called out a doctor who called out an ambulance. My very first symptoms to life support machine was 12 hours, and from the rash appearing to life support was just 1 hour. So it all happened very, very quickly.
It was an incredible call on your mum's part.
Yeah, just and sheer luck, if I'm being honest. Lots of people, you know, if it had been, you know, perhaps the weekend and my parents had let me lie and it not been a school day, perhaps, you know, then it would have been a very different story because there would have been no way of knowing. And anyone on the call, you know, particularly if you've got going off to university or anything in the future, just keep an eye out on your friends. The vaccination program for meningitis, particularly type C, has been so incredibly successful, but it's still about. So if you get that gut feeling that something's not right, you know, particularly if you're off to university, get your friends checked out because you could save their life. And I think we all know that the doctors would say that they would rather it was false alarm. You're not wasting their time than not getting something checked out because, as you alluded to, it could have been a different story.
So what happened at that point? You're in hospital.
Yeah, so they rushed me in. They blue lighted me into hospital. When we arrived, apparently I thanked the ambulance drivers for the lift, which I don't remember. So I'm a bit flippant, Michael. I have to apologise. I'm very easy going about my disability, as I imagine lots of people on the call will be. And they put me to sleep in hospital, and I was in an induced coma. with a 20% chance of survival, which I think was just being nice to give my parents some hope. I was really, really poorly. And, going back to what we said before, BMXing, skateboarding, active 15-year-old to suddenly bang, a catastrophe, and what happened was your body is very clever at keeping you alive. So what it did was went into shutdown mode, and it sent my blood to my vital organs, my heart, my liver, my kidneys, and my brain. And I didn't get enough blood to the ends of my legs and the tips of my fingers. Mm-hmm. So they woke me up 2 weeks later from my induced coma, and they broke the news to me at first that I might have to have the very tips of my fingers amputated and my toes. And you can imagine that when you're 15 with all the hormones flying around. I mean, you're self-conscious anyway, aren't you? And then they broke the news to me it wasn't scabbed to my toes, it was going to have to my feet. And I've just realised this is a great leveler, isn't it? Because anyone on the call's probably got no idea that I'm an amputee, unless you looked at the picture at the start. So I'm a bilateral bony amputee. Hold on, I'll try and get a leg in the shot. Wait a minute. There's one leg.
Okay.
There's two legs. So I'm a bilateral bony amputee.
So go on then. Tell us a little bit more how things unfolded at that particular moment in time when you were told that news. So time is ticking. Things need to happen fairly quickly, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, it's not very pleasant, but you have to wait for as long as possible to see how much you can save. So I was poorly in January, and I basically had to watch my legs deteriorate up to March, which was really, really tough. And if I'm being honest, towards the end, you were looking forward to the operation because you couldn't move forwards with your life until you kind of got it out of the way. And that was all very, very tough. Coming round from that operation and there not being the two lumps in the bed that should be there. That was really, really difficult. But what it did quite quickly was it almost flicked a light switch in my head. It made me very aware of my mortality. And I thought, you know what? If this can't kill me, nothing can. And it gave me a drive that I never had before. So I'm sure we're going to talk about this more as we go through the call. But I look at it now as probably the worst and best thing that ever happened to me. Worst for obvious reasons, but best because it instantly gave me this completely different outlook on life and this drive that I never had before. I was in hospital for a year in total. So that year was a write-off. Went in January, didn't come out until December.
And just give me a sense of how your family were coping at this particular juncture.
Oh, I must have been. I mean, my little sister, she was 4 years younger than me, and she got pushed from pillar to post. She'd be staying with my grandparents one week and auntie another week. And just because my parents would be visiting me in hospital, it was really, really tough for her. I think she was that much younger that it just made it a bit more difficult because she understood some things. Maybe we kept too much from her. I'm not quite sure, but that must have been really, really difficult for her at that time. I mean, my parents, they were amazing, but it was all really tough. Towards the end, I was coming home for breaks from hospital, and my house was it wasn't accessible particularly, so I was living in the living room to start with, and we were doing our best, but looking back, it wasn't the best situation. We got the garage converted and things, but that took a long time. But one of the things that happened, I'll tell you a little story actually. When I first came out of hospital, so bearing in mind, what am I now? I'm sort of 16 going on 17. I went to a party with a couple of friends. My friends came and picked me up. I'm in a wheelchair, stump boards out the front, I've not got prosthetics at this point. They took me to a party. And I remember ringing my parents on my own brick mobile phone. They bought me a brick mobile phone. That's what we all had back then, didn't we? Pull the area.
Motorola.
Yeah, Motorola. It was huge. Yeah. And weighed a ton. And I rang my parents and said, I'm going to stay at this party. And I didn't realise this. My mum was saying, no, you better come home. My dad got on the phone and said, yeah, that's fine, see you later, bye. Put the phone down. I didn't realise this until a few years ago. They told me the story, but they had a massive barmy because my mum was saying, he's just come out of hospital. He can't stay at this party. He's got to, we've got to look after him. My dad said, you know what? No, he's got to live his life. And I think that was really important because it meant that I just went and did all the things that I perhaps should have been doing when I was kind of 17, 18. And I got in my wheelchair with my friends and we kind of really didn't think anything of it.
You know what? You must have told this story 1,000 times, right? And just briefly, if you wouldn't mind, just briefly, can you remember the day when you left hospital to go home?
Yeah, I've told the main bit of the story, but I don't normally tell people about my parents having an argument. They're going to kill me for this. The day I didn't really leave hospital, what happened was I was having lots of skin grafts. That's why
Yeah.
I stayed in so long, because of my skin. And we went to an appointment at the prosthetic center, and they tried me with my legs. And the OTs that I was working with in rehab said, you know what? This is you leaving hospital. So I never actually kind of left, which
Yeah.
I felt bad because I went to say goodbye. I've made so many good friends, but I just kind of, that's how I left at that point, and that was the right thing. But I do remember it was out into the wilderness.
So let's wind the clock forwards about 9 years to 2013.
Yeah.
When you were approached by the Meningitis Research Foundation, and you were asked if you'd like to join a group of people who were looking to climb a mountain, and that mountain happened to be Mt Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. Tell us a little more.
That's the picture, isn't it? Yeah. Right, here we go. So I'll wind it back a little bit. I'd kind of fallen into wheelchair sports by doing some wheelchair races. I'd done the London Marathon a few times for MRF, Meningitis Research Foundation. So, and that's kind of how I ended up in sport, just by agreeing to things that I shouldn't agree to. But this was the biggest thing that I ever agreed to that I should never have agreed to. And Mike from the charity, who was the fundraising director at the time, turned up at my house. He rang me up and said, "Can I come and visit you?" And I thought, hold on, why does he he wants to come to my house? This is going to be big. And they're based in Bristol. I'm based in Southampton, 2.5 hour drive. When someone drives that far, they're going to want a favour, Michael. But he turned up at my house, and we're drinking a cup of tea in my lounge. And I was like, "Mike, what do you want?" And he said, this is exactly how it went. "Well, we send thousands of university students up Kilimanjaro to raise money for us. Do you fancy it?" So I went, all right. And it was literally, that was it. I just went, oh, okay. And this probably goes back to the point earlier about being in hospital and just not being able to say no to things, when I became an amputee. So I agreed to climb the mountain just like that. I had a bit of an idea of the mountain, but I didn't really know a lot about it. So it wasn't until he left and I Googled it. And that picture you just showed is the first picture on Google Images of Kilimanjaro. I know that because that's the image I saw. And I went, oh, great. So it's actually higher than the clouds. And it all just spiraled from there. It really did. We looked into it. Other people had been up Kili in a wheelchair, but they've been carried to the top. And for some people, of course, if you've got high level of disability, you're going to need to be carried. As an amputee, I thought, you know what, maybe I've got this. And we set the goal to become the first person in the world in a wheelchair to get the top of Kili without any assistance. Now, I should explain, I've got prosthetic legs, but from the scarring, from the sepsis, from the meningitis, I've got bad scars, so I never would have been able to walk up the mountain. So they're great for me to walk, from my house to my car. Yep. But I'm not someone, I'd take a wheelchair with me because I can't, I can't walk that much. Yep. So, and that's how it all started.
So come on then, don't keep us hanging on there. Take us up the mountain.
Yeah, so we looked into it. I got myself a specially adapted wheelchair called a mountain trike. I'm not sure if anyone on the calls use one of those. Yeah, yeah, we're doing it already. I found the biggest hill that I knew about, which is a place called Bolton's Bench in Lyndhurst. If anyone's been to the New Forest, everyone's been to Bolton's Bench. You get an ice cream in Lyndhurst and you climb up Bolton's Bench. It's a hill, it's not a mountain. And you roll down it and you avoid the manure. And I went up and down that about 3,000 times thinking it was sufficient training. We threw the kitchen sink at it. We'd raised kind of £20,000 for charity, and it was quite a big deal. So to help us prepare, I flew out to Chamonix to Mont Blanc and went up and down the cable car every day. So if anyone knows it, in the Alps, you've got the cable car that goes up. It's the highest cable car in the world, I believe, off the top of my head. And that was the best way to acclimatize. So, and that was really peculiar because life's so incredibly busy. And next thing you know, I'm sat in a cab. I'd go up every day on a cable car for a week and sit in a cafe on my own, like bumping into school trips and things. But yeah, that was the best prep for the climb.
So you're sipping cappuccinos, overlooking Mont Blanc, wearing a cool pair of shades, and life is just wonderful for you in that moment.
At that moment, it soon went downhill. So we flew from there out to Tanzania.
Yeah.
And it was a smallish group. So you had myself, Mike from the charity, my dad, who was a team mechanic, a doctor, and the guides. That was it. I mean, it wasn't a big group as such. And we set off on the challenge in the chair. There was a documentary made about it if anyone wants to watch it, and you see at the start, it's great. They go to push me and I say, no, I'm all right. I'm going to do it myself. But we didn't move very fast. So in the mountain trike, day one was meant to take about 5 to 6 hours to get to the, 3 to 4 hours to get to the very first camp. Took 5 to 6 hours. So by the time we got there, it was getting dusky. Everyone was looking a little bit worried. We camped overnight and we set off on day two. Day two was meant to take between 4 and 5 hours. Took 10.5 hours. At which point, Joshua, the head guide, came and sat down next to me and said, Aaron, what's your goal? I said, well, it's to get to the top. He said, good, I'm glad that's your goal because that's my goal, but your wheelchair's moving too slowly. We're going to have to carry you. I can't tell you how I responded to Joshua on this call now because I know there's a few youngsters on it, but we can say it got a little bit colourful. We'll maybe just say it like that. So I was very stressed. I had all this pride, Michael. I wanted to do it. I told everybody that I was going to get up this mountain under my own steam. I just did not want to be carried up the mountain. So it was, it was really tough. And they're having a word with my dad. My dad's saying, they've told me I've got to come and have a word with you. And I was sort of saying, I'm chatting to my dad. And it got really, really heated. But it was very apparent the wheelchair wasn't going to cope. So perfect timing to put that up. That's a set of gel knee pads, carpenter's knee pads that I bought from B&Q. And I knew that I could move faster out of my wheelchair than I could in my wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I had a really technical piece of mountaineering equipment with me called duct tape. So I duct taped my knee pads to my legs. I jumped out of my wheelchair and I started crawling. And it was daft, really. It really was daft. After the first day of crawling on my hands and knees for 9.5 kilometers up the mountain, I was in bits.
Yeah.
I just about had enough dressings. I was getting pressure sores, but we just managed to hold out. It's funny because the most simple things, like the roll of duct tape, becomes the most valuable thing you've ever had. Every day you're counting the pieces. It's like a $4.99 roll of duct tape, but you're just thinking, is this going to hold out?
Yeah.
The knee pads are falling to pieces. Can we get them to hold out till we get to the end of the trek? The guides are still saying every given moment, we're going to have to carry you. You're bonkers.
Yeah. So this picture shows you at the summit. What was summit day like? I've got to ask that. And so mission accomplished. How are you feeling in this moment? Because on the picture on the left tells me that you were absolutely shattered.
I was broken. That last night,
Yeah.
That was 10 hours. We set off for midnight and we got to the summit 10:30 the following morning.
Yeah.
And as I was going along, Michael, I was crying at times. I was in that much pain.
Yeah.
But there was no way that I was going to get carried up the mountain. So to get to the top, the picture on the, I don't know which people were looking at, the picture of me and my dad at the top, that's when we actually made it to the summit. I think the other picture is when we're starting to make our way down and I'm kind of starting to realize how broken I actually am. I've never been that exhausted. And I've done the London Marathon. It made doing the London Marathon look like doing the washing up.
Hey, but you did it, and absolute respect to you. And I've got to ask, you've raised lots and lots of money for your chosen charity, which was Meningitis Research Foundation. Tell me, the funds that were raised, what do they do? How do those funds help the charity?
Okay, so Meningitis Research Foundation are all about eradicating the world of meningitis. So it's not as bad in the UK as it has been in the past due to the vaccines we've already spoken about. But around the world, it's still massive, and it's a huge killer, and it's It's a really difficult illness. I think it's the way that it presents itself, like flu. Well, you looked at my symptoms, I had a fever and I vomited, and then you saw how that went.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why it often gets misdiagnosed, not by any fault of the doctors, just because it presents itself like a common cold or flu, really. So that's what they do. They're trying to eradicate meningitis from the world by doing research projects, etc. And they're really, really successful in doing that.
So for those who'd like to learn more about the Meningitis Research Foundation, the vital work that they do, why they need your support, and how you can get involved in supporting maybe World Meningitis Day on Wednesday, the 5th of October this year, head over to meningitis.org. I'm going to dive into the chat room for a quick moment here. So good evening to Amandeep up in Scotland. I know where you are, sir, and it's wonderful that you're with us this evening. I've got a quick question here from Rick, which we're going to come back to, but I'm just going to frame the question so we don't forget the question. Early days, but my son is thinking about taking up wheelchair rugby. We're going to talk about that in a second. Do you have one top tip that might help him along the way? So hold that thought in your mind, please, Aaron. And from Mike, in terms of your own mental well-being, would you be happy to share one or two practices that are helpful, like, for example, meditation, breathing techniques, and mindfulness? Do you want to give us a quick answer on that one?
Oh, mental well-being. Oh,
yes.
See, I don't. I'm an elite athlete, and we're going to talk about this in a minute.
Yeah.
I just think it's about having a positive outlook as much as you can. I just get fed up with people that moan on Facebook about what I seem to think is really trivial things, if I'm being honest. So for me, do you know what? I can answer this in a better way. It stems from being poorly. That made me very aware of my own mortality. Yep. It made me make positive choices, and it makes everything seem a little bit easier. I had to go through that to have good mental well-being. Yeah. You can just make positive choices and try and be happy now if you want to. I get it's not that easy for everybody though.
It's great. It's a great answer. A lot of people I know that with disability see their disability as an asset in some ways, and they, that positivity and that how they see the world. And they're half glass full people. So Aaron, before we chat some more, hopefully you'll be familiar with our quick fire rounds, allowing audience to get to know you a little bit more. So are you ready?
I think so. I've watched a few of these.
I'm going to say the expression. I've got to say it. Are you sitting comfortably?
Yeah, I am sitting comfortably. Let's go.
Here we go. Scrambled, fried, or poached eggs, Aaron?
Poached, athlete.
So how many years ago did the Kilimanjaro summit, so Kibo, how many years ago did it last erupt? Was it A, 360 years ago, B, 3,600 years ago, or was it C, 360,000 years ago?
I think it was 360,000. It must have been a long time. It's really extinct.
It is. Well done. Good one. One tune, so one song that makes Aaron train even harder.
It's DJ Hazard, Mr. Happy. It's very extreme drum and bass. My girls will play that to me when I'm doing some training in the garage.
Excellent. Most used emoji on your smartphone?
Oh, fist bump, thumbs up, straight at the same time. I do that to loads.
Mwenzi, Shirar, and Kibo are what?
Volcanoes.
Yeah, Kilimanjaro's 3 volcanic cones.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Aaron's top gadget is?
Oh, top gadget. Oh, I don't want to say my phone. That's rubbish, isn't it? Amplify music.
You said it.
A hi-fi, record deck, buff.
Very good. If someone was to play Aaron Phipps in a movie, who would you want it to be?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
And finally, in this particular round, what do the numbers 54 to 59 mean to you?
Oh, 54 to 59. Pass.
You can't pass on that question. I'm going to have to stay for the rest of the show. I'm going to give you a little clue. American team? GB team?
Yeah, you suckered me in then. Yeah, absolutely. That's the final of the Tokyo Games, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, right. Now I feel like a wally.
You're never going to live that one down. Anyway,
no. I didn't think of them in that context. That's a good way of working it. Yeah. Very clever.
Let's talk about the high octane brutal sport of wheelchair rugby, otherwise known as murder ball. And so, what exactly are you about to do to Mr. Aoki number 5 here, Aaron?
Okay, so in our sport, you only have 12 seconds to progress the ball across the halfway line. America have inbounded the ball, so the ball's come into Chuck Aoki, and I'm trying to put him under pressure. So he's worried about getting the ball across the half, and at the moment, I'm probably screaming in his face something like, "Ball's going to come, wait for the pass." He's got nothing. Anything to make his life difficult, but you need to remember this is elite sport. This is not a tickling competition. Great picture.
So I'm going to pop up a few slides, and perhaps you can just tell us a little bit more about what's going on as each slide pops up. So here's the first one.
Oh, that was God, that's back from about 2009 or 10.
Yeah.
That's with Steve Brown, Mr. Countryfile now, and Dave Anthony.
Yeah.
Who's the first person I met with muscular dystrophy who taught me all about it, because that's what that's what he's got. And we are Castle in Cardiff. Is it just called Cardiff Castle? I can't remember. Doing a launch for a tournament.
Very good. And I have the pleasure of meeting both of those gentlemen. I look forward to meeting you at one day, at one point in the future. So here's the next slide. Up it comes. And what's going on here?
Yeah, okay. So on the left, you got me doing a training hand bike session at the university, so giving it some of this. In the middle, I was on the build up to the Paralympics. I'd pick up my trainer in the morning, and we were bubbling together because of COVID. And we'd go and do a training session like the picture on the right. I hope you're looking at these around the same way that I am, in the wheelchair on the treadmill.
Yeah.
And we were driving home one day, and we saw those billboards up. So we parked, maybe slightly illegally, and I said, "We've got to get a photo of this, John." So we jumped over the fence, went running over, and we got that photo. And I sent it to Channel 4 and said, "Here you go. You guys can share this one if you'd like to." So that's me in my GB kit getting a photo by the "It's rude not to stare" sign, because that's a little bit of me, that sign.
No, that's good. No, that's good. I like it. Next slide. So what's going on here? I've got to ask, what exactly is going on here on the left-hand side here?
That's when we won the gold medal. And obviously we had no family there supporting us because of COVID.
Yeah.
So my wife was having a huge party in our house, and they were the first people I rung when I got back to the changing room.
Yes.
That's my wife, Vicky, holding up the phone.
Yes.
And I couldn't even speak. I think I just sort of went like this. I couldn't say anything. I was in absolute bits. And that's Vicky holding up the phone, and everybody cheered. And then that's me on Channel 4 on the right there. So that's me crying on Channel 4 when we won the medal. And for just for the parents on the call, see my mum and dad. So bearing in mind, we've spoken about my dad. He's the team mechanic, follows us around. That party started at 10 o'clock in the morning when the match started, and it didn't stop. We'll leave that there.
Excellent. And this next picture is one of my fave. It just tells a story, right? You can just feel the energy from that particular photo. It's beautiful.
We couldn't believe it. It was like a fairy tale. It really was. We've always come fourth or fifth in every major tournament. So beat Japan in the semi-final and got through to the final. So to go all the way and get the medal it really was. We shouldn't have been in that position, if I'm being brutally honest. It was such an amazing feeling. Then everything that's come from that afterwards, and to do it for people like your family, Michael, you come back to them, but they follow you around the world unconditionally, and they support you every time you come forth. They say, "Well done, you did your best," and you just want to do it for them. So to go all the way and get that medal for them is what made it really special. And that's me in the middle, so I'm the daft one in the squad. So I've got to get in the middle of this picture. So there's a more professional one where we're looking a bit more serious, and there's the daft one with me later.
I love the daft one. And this next picture really sums it up.
What are you trying to do to me? Yeah. So the girls couldn't come out to Tokyo, but that's you got Vicky, my wife, my mum, my dad, my sister, my niece, and Ella and Chloe. So to get that for them is what makes it really special. And they came running through Heathrow to greet me. We got a police escort back to my house. All my neighbours were in the street. We were drinking champagne. It was just amazing.
I'm mad. Absolutely love it. And finally, this next pic, and you've got something to show us, I hope.
I got him a suit from the showroom. Yeah, I've got it with me. I bought it on the call as requested. So it's in its little frame. So it's in a little frame because
let's see it again.
Here we go. It's because I take it around with me
Wonderful.
if I go into a school or a business and people want to look, and it was just getting a bit threadbare. So I put it in this special little floating case there, and it's very, very precious. This and
Love it.
the medal, yeah, it's just what it represents. All those 17 years of wheelchair sport, we did it.
I'm just going to dive into the chat room before we do any other images. So let's have a little look. Amandi, great to listen to Aaron Phipps' story. Thumbs up. These kind of stories inspire me not to give up in life. Good evening, Karen and family. Have you ever wanted to try power chair football? We're going to come on to that a little bit later, because I think we're going to influence you in some way, shape or form to try power chair football. Adrian says, how easy is it to right your chair when you've been hit hard and you're on the floor?
Right, okay, I'll explain. So I've got I won't talk about classification, but I will talk about classification. So I'm the least disabled person on my team, and then that works its way down the scale to people I play with who are tetraplegic, so broken their neck up really high. And I've got all my tummy muscles, so I could flip myself over. To make it fair and consistent, I'm not allowed to. So what happens is, if it's dangerous because someone's flying towards you, the referee will blow the whistle. Or if the ball goes out of play, the referee will blow the whistle. And two people come running on court with a mat. The mat is not for you. It's so you don't scratch the floor. They will flip you over. They will say, is the chair all right? Are you all right? And then they'll go running off again. It's a bit like budget Formula One.
Okay. And that process takes what, seconds? A bit like a
F1
tyre change.
It's quite quick. We're going to get you playing it, Michael. It'll be fine.
Yeah, right. Moving swiftly on. Karen says, who is your favourite rugby team? Do you have a favourite rugby team?
Do you know what? I was growing up. My dad didn't watch a lot of sport, so I would go off and he went fishing. So I used to go fishing with my dad, which is fine until you're being interviewed by the BBC and they want, your opinion on the cricket or something, and you've got no idea. So I didn't kind of have a team growing up, but now the Leicester Tigers, they're quite heavily involved in wheelchair rugby, and I spent some time with them. So we're going to go Leicester Tigers.
Brilliant, nice one. Shout out to Tom Kelly. Hi, Aaron. I met you at my primary school just before 2012 Olympics. You invited me to the GB wheelchair rugby team train, which was a great experience. I've still got a signed ball. This helped me get more interested in wheelchair sports, and I now play the beautiful game that is power chair football, Aaron, at a high level. I know he does that. That's absolutely true. So that's a wonderful, thank you for that comment, Tom. Great stuff. So we're, again, same question. Have you ever wanted to play power chair football? Well, come on. You need to answer that
go
one.
back though. Thanks, Tom. You've made me well up a bit. I remember meeting you, so
yeah.
I'm glad that's all going on. And I remember we got the ball signed. I've got a feeling that picture from Cardiff might have been to do with that tournament as well. But I'm glad everything's going well. Yeah, of course I would. It looks like loads of fun. I've seen it. The problem is I'll get really competitive and I'll probably start smashing into people because that's all I know. So am I allowed to crash into people? Is that part of it?
Well, we'll answer that one a bit later on. Let's just go back to Tom for a second, because I think Tom is deserving of a muscle warrior salute. So I think we'll give Tom a muscle warrior salute. There you go, Tom. Hope you're keeping well, my friend. So I've got a quick question from Sam here. Let's see if we could just get through this one. How is the inclusion agenda progressing when it comes to disability sport? I suspect we could spend an hour on this one alone. But yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, I think it was London 2012 that changed perceptions of disability overnight. That was phenomenal. Before the Paralympics, I used to wear jeans all the time. I didn't want people to see my legs. After the Paralympics, I always wore shorts because it's much more comfortable for me. I don't worry as much. And I think from those games, we've probably become one of the most inclusive countries in the entire world. Yeah, traveling with my team, it's not like this all around the globe. Yeah, we haven't got it perfect, but it's probably better than it is in most places. And I think it's just, I get people come up to me now. They might not necessarily know who I am. I'm not arrogant enough to say that, but they will come up and say, "Oh, you're that guy that plays wheelchair rugby," and they've seen the sport, and able-bodied people, not just disabled people. So I think it's changing. There's definitely a shift. I think it's not this kind of gimmicky thing that's people in wheelchairs doing this. It's just become sport, and that's how it should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Do you know, perhaps some of our audience don't know, we're just going to pop up another image, don't know that Adam Hills, one of Channel 4's The Last Leg presenters, was born without a right foot. And I know that he's described the show as three guys with four legs talking about the week, right? So they talk about all sorts of interesting topics. If anyone follows The Last Leg, it's a great show. So, Aaron, what exactly went down here?
I get on very well with Adam. We have quite a lot of banter, as you can imagine. We're
Good.
both a little bit daft. We've already alluded to this. So yeah, I give as good as I get with him, and I think he quite likes that on the show. We after we won the gold medal the next morning, we ended up on the last leg. So it was 10:30 in the UK. It was 6 o'clock the next morning, and we were a rugby team. So you can imagine how that night went. And we ended up on the last leg, but it was a very funny episode. After the games, we got invited to Wembley for the homecoming, and Adam announced that he had a man crush on me live at Wembley, which was very funny, which I was really quite pleased with. Don't tell him, but yeah, I quite liked it.
Moving swiftly on, why is a round ball like volleyball used as opposed to a conventional oval-shaped rugby ball?
Okay. Oh, I'll tell you the murder ball story then. So wheelchair rugby was invented in Canada in the 70s.
Yep.
There was 4 quadriplegics, and they were just unable to play wheelchair basketball because of their disability. Their break was up too high. Basketball was quite heavy. Net's quite far up. So they invented this sport where you used a volleyball. You could pass it any which way, but you could crash into each other. So they called it murder ball. They then struggled to get corporate sponsorship for a sport named murder ball. This is a true story. They couldn't enter it into the Paralympics called murder ball. So they changed the name to wheelchair rugby. That is why it is nothing like rugby, but it's called wheelchair rugby.
Yeah.
But what I really love is the respect part of rugby has come through into our game. At the Japan Paralympics, we beat, at the Tokyo Paralympics, we beat Japan in the semi-final. And even after beating them in home games, we'd knocked them out of the gold and silver medal match. They were still coming up and congratulating us. And that's what I love about our sport. I joke about screaming in people's faces, trying to smash people out, but afterwards we're still all friends.
Yeah.
And I think I love that part of my game.
Yeah.
I love that part of our game. There's some other sports which I look at and I'm not quite sure about what they're doing, but I really like the way that's come through into ours.
So I've got a couple of questions from somebody that who's actually down in France at the minute, and he one of his questions was, what was the significance of a very important meeting that took place in a pub in the New Forest in autumn 2016?
Yeah, the going back to playing wheelchair rugby. You've been chatting to David, haven't you? Our CEO. Yeah, that was a significant meeting. So I competed in the London 2012 Paralympics, but I'd done it all round the wrong way, really. Married mortgage elite athlete, and it hadn't worked out. And we'd come 5th at London, and it'd been tough. And I decided to take a break. And David came and met with me in 2016, and he said, "Do you fancy giving it another go?" Really, really great chap, David. Heart of gold. He's our CEO of the team, but he's done so much to help so many people. He's a really, really great guy. And he was the one that kind of convinced me. Well, not twisted my arm. I don't think that's fair. But, he said, you've got a future in this if you want to have another go. And it was him who got me back. And then, well, the end of this story, we went forwards and got the gold medal. So a lot to him now. And he's a good friend of mine. So that was a significant meeting. But you know David as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do. What's been the key change? Going into the chat room here for a second, this is actually coming from David, so thank you, David, for the question. But what has been the key change for you playing, Aaron, for GB in 2012 and then playing in 2022? What was is there something noticeable in terms of, I don't know, how the team performed, how they trained, their mindset?
Yeah, it was. We worked a lot on our identity and what it meant to be part of Great Britain wheelchair rugby. David had done some fantastic work as well. So I'll give him a shout out while we're here. If you think we were professional-ish in 2012 and we did our best, but that was completely different to the team that went to 2022, 2020/21. And the mindset of the squad, I think we always knew we could do it, but I don't think we believed it. So we worked so much on our identity, and we had words like we were a ruthless, relentless team, and we took that into the games, and we just had this belief that we'd never had before. We've been off to, it was kind of this momentum and this shift that kept kind of bubbling away. But I think David would even admit that none of us could see the gold medal coming. I think we'd have been happy with the bronze. Yeah, and to go all the way and get the gold was like fairy tale stuff. It was lovely for David as well, because we kind of all knew that he was going to retire after the games. Had been our CEO for a long time, so to do it for him as well, you know, that was really, really great. Like, we're hugging each other and crying, and yeah, brilliant.
Listen, we're 45 minutes into this conversation. Can you believe it? Time flies. Briefly, what does the future of the sport look like?
For GB Wheelchair Rugby, or for myself? Sorry.
Well, GB Wheelchair Rugby.
Oh yeah, really good. A few players retired after Tokyo. I mean, that happens quite a lot after a big 4-year cycle. You know, some of the more senior players stepped back. We're still going strong. We went off to a tournament in Alabama a few weeks ago, and we got within 1 point of America in the final. So that shows that even having lost a few of our key players, you know, we're still punching, and it's really exciting. We could go and we could do it again. The weird thing is, I'm got to be careful saying that though, because we play a volatile sport. You know, it's not, if you're running and you get your prep right, as long as, you know, nothing happens on the day, then, you know, you're going to run your race. My tire could explode as I was crossing the goal line, and that could be the difference between gold medal and 6th place. You know, so it's not everything's in your control.
Andy Barrow is tuned in and just wants to send a little message to wish you well and great to see you. Thank you for that, Andy. It's good of you. You remember Andy, I'm sure?
Yeah, I do remember Andy. When you started speaking then, again, me and Andy, you know, we go back and forth a little bit. That's just nice that he's just giving you a nice message. I'll just say, hey, Andy, as well. I'm surprised he's not rinsing me, to be honest.
There's still time to be rinsed, okay?
Yeah, still time to be rinsed. Great guy.
You've got a tagline, which I spotted on your website, a sign-off, if you like, never the finished article. Tell us more.
Yeah, I like the logic that you can always be better. At the Paralympics in Tokyo, I had a list of things that I was working on. So before I go into a big match, I've got 2 big pre-game processes that I like to do. The first is that I like to look at my list of things that I'm working on. So I took this scrap of A4 paper to the games, and it was like, stay on the side of the player on the pick and roll, little intricacies of the game that I won't go into. But that's what I like. I like the logic that you're never the finished article. You can always be better, even at the top level in sport, in life. But just quickly, I'll just say my other pre-game process to get me ready to play wheelchair rugby is that I like to have a cup of tea in the changing room. And I find that just keeps me calm. I play better when I'm calm.
Nice one. If you haven't put a question to Aaron this evening, there's still time. So please pop your question on whichever channel you're watching, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, and we'll pick it up. So quickfire round 2. Aaron, here we go. Quickfire. You ready to go?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So here we are. Cheese, pizza, pepperoni, meat, margarita, chicken, Hawaiian, or buffalo pizza?
Hawaiian, pineapple on pizza, amazing. I know it's controversial, but I love it.
Good stuff. One item that Aaron would take to a desert island?
Headphones, listen to music. I have to have some music with me, maybe a speaker.
So Aaron's the PM for 24 hours. One change that you'd make today?
I don't know. There's so many things I think I'd like to adjust. I think we've got to do something about the heating bills, but let's have something fun that's not really political and deep. Something I'd change today. I'd make everyone wear a blue t-shirt tomorrow. Everyone in the country, blue t-shirt.
A blue t-shirt or a
blue t-shirt? Everybody. No idea. I'm just trying to think of something daft.
So when Aaron is brushing his teeth, does Aaron use plastic, bamboo, or electric toothbrush?
Electric toothbrush.
True or false? Aaron's food hell is anything that's dry or bland.
Yeah, it is.
True.
Where are you finding these things?
Tonight's dinner, what was it and who cooked it, Aaron?
It was carbonara, and my wife Vicky cooked it. It was really, really nice. And she's on boot camp at the moment. She needed the energy to go and do some exercise.
Big shout out to Vicky. And of course to Ella and to Chloe, who did the magnificent Ninja Warriors a little bit earlier today, I'm told.
Yeah, so we did.
which sport are you listening and paying attention to this one, Aaron? Which sport has a 120-second break between quarters and where teams have 40 seconds to score on each possession?
120 seconds between quarters, that's 2 minutes, and 40 seconds. Is that just wheelchair rugby?
Correct.
Okay, cool. You worried me for a moment. Okay. I'm
And
thinking
finally,
basketball 25, sorry.
one bit of advice that Aaron would give his younger self.
Oh, it's not so much advice, but I'd love to go back now and speak to poorly hospital bed Aaron, who was scared, and say, you know what, it all works out right in the end, because it was lonely and it was hard.
Let's talk about movies for a minute. What is it about these two films that you love, Aaron?
Okay, so Pulp Fiction. I remember the first time I watched that film, and I'd never seen anything like it. I just loved the dialogue. We're going to say I was 18 when I watched it, because I'm sure it's an 18. It's close enough to be an 18, but I'd never seen a kind of gangster film, an action film with them just talking about random things. And it's one of those, it pops up on the telly sometimes, and it just draws you in. It's phenomenal. And probably In Bruges as well, very, very similar. I just love I love the silly dialogue. Anyone who's seen it, when they're talking about the ring road and bits and pieces, if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. It just has me in stitches. And I love that. I love that kind of normalness in this chaos. Yeah, brilliant.
That's one. So where is Aaron's happy place?
It's probably at home with my girls. It's probably, I've been off to a big tournament. Ideally we've won, and I'm back, and we're doing some normal family things. So, my sport takes me away from them from time to time, and to be back when they come running on and give you a big squeeze, and then we do some normal family things, and the pressure's off for that little bit of time because you're in between tournaments. But I think that's my happy place with my family.
How many wheelchairs have you broken, Aaron?
David might be able to tell us this. It cost him a fortune. I get through about one a year, because I hit people so hard, I buckle, I twist them, and I crack them. So I've got 2 chairs on a go at the moment, and probably a new one at some point. So if I break one, it goes off to be mended while I use the other one. So I switch in and out of them. Again, it's a bit like budget Formula One.
And just for those that don't, I don't know, how much is a wheelchair, to play rugby, how much does it cost?
They're between about £4,000 and £8,000.
Okay.
So I'm really fortunate. I'm supported by a really, really great company called RMA Sport. They're based in Wales, and they sponsor me for my chairs and help me out. And they're great. And it's really, we've never had a British manufacturer before. So to have a British manufacturer that's, doing their thing, it's great, because I some people in the chat were talking about trying wheelchair rugby. To be able to just pop over to Wales or see them at a tournament or something, get measured up, makes a massive, massive difference.
Who makes Aaron laugh out loud?
Jimmy Carr. I've been to see him live a number of times, and that kind of warped sense of humour is right up my street.
Very good. And on dream dinner guests, I'd like you to name just a couple of people, alive preferably, that you would most like to invite, maybe to your home for some good pizza, and why?
Okay, how many can I have, please?
Two.
Okay, let's go Johnny Wilkinson, just because phenomenal, isn't he? I'd just pick his brains about sport and his mindset and everything else, and just bombard him with questions. Who else shall I have? I should have someone. Let's go George Ezra, because I think he's pretty good. He could get his guitar out and sing us some songs as well. I think that'd be good.
Wouldn't you prefer an American rapper, just out of interest?
yeah, I probably would.
What about, just off the top of my head, Snoop Dogg by any chance?
Where are you getting this information from, Michael? Yeah, no, I would. I do like Snoop Doggy Dogg, but yeah, I don't think he can get a visa to come to the UK though, so we'll have to be someone else.
Very good. So, Aaron, you've been a great guest. We're nearly there. What's your message for young people?
Okay, that's huge. So I think it's I had to lose 30% of my body before I started to use 100% of my potential. I know that some of the people on the call are going to be going through some difficult circumstances as well, but I think it's just about trying to stay positive and making your own opportunities. A disability can also be a bit of a superpower. It can open doors that you perhaps couldn't get opened otherwise. And I know you do some amazing things on the charity with taking people out to do some phenomenal things and stuff. So I think it's not always easy, but just be you and make the best of that situation.
Nice one. I mean, it is probably a conversation that we could have, over 60 minutes, no doubt, just talking about that one specific thing. But, you are, in my opinion, from the research that I've done and in this conversation, you're a role model to young people. And therefore there's a real sense of responsibility in how you conduct yourself and, your values as an individual. So, hats off to you for how you've conducted yourself, the things that you've achieved in your life, and the messaging, the important messaging that you convey and communicate to young people. Penultimate question, Aaron, tell us about just two additional goals or aspirations that Aaron wants to achieve in his life going forwards.
Two goals. I'd like to get to the Paris Paralympics. I think the gold medal would have been the perfect ending to the adventure, but there was no spectators, and I've already spoken to you about my daughters quite a lot, and I want to take them to come watch us play wheelchair rugby. So I'd like to make it to Paris. I'm getting old, everything hurts now, so I have to wait and see how that goes. And I think my thing is going to be trying to find things that people haven't done in a wheelchair and then trying to do them in a wheelchair. So watch this space for other I'm going to just say stupid charity challenges moving forward. So I know you've done a few challenges, Michael, so you get it as well. So yeah, I'm going to do a few challenges.
Brilliant. I can't wait to hear what some of those crazy challenges might be. Final question to close off tonight's show. Aaron, you've been a really, really great guest, and thank you. If there's one thing that we can all do to perhaps make the world just a slightly better place, what would that one thing be?
I think it's about being kind to each other. I think it's maybe a bit of a cliche to say, but just look after each other. I think in this world that we live in now, people are quick to criticize, people are quick to comment on social media and things, but just saying hello to someone, just being nice to your neighbor, just any of those things. We've all got our stuff going on. Lots of people on the call will as well, but by you stopping and saying hello to someone, you might make their day. So let's all just be kind to each other. It makes the world a better place.
Nice. Just going to dive into the chat room. Thank you so much, David, for your comment. Michael and Aaron, lovely conversation from two men that have always made me think about what it is to be human, what is truly important and meaningful, and how we are all in this life together. Love to you both and to your families, especially my shared 3 girls. Very proud of you, Aaron. Beautiful message. Thank you, David.
You're going to set me off here.
So big thanks to our special guest this evening, Aaron Phipps, for being so generous with his time. And Aaron, if I can invite you, please, to give us all your best muscle warrior salute. And I'd like you to hold it for 6 minutes and 57 seconds. We'll just have a chat. I'm just kidding. There was actually an image that I came across that I'm just going to ask to be popped up here as we speak. It's a photograph that you shared with us, and you were giving, actually, without even knowing it, a fantastic muscle warrior salute. So from all of us to you, thank you. That is just an awesome, awesome photograph. And of course, for those that don't know, this muscle warrior salute is a visible symbol of hope, courage, strength, joy, and unity for all those with muscular dystrophy. So as we close, I hope you've all enjoyed tonight's show. And if you have, can I invite you all, please, to head over to musclehub.com/power of 657, where you can learn more about our 657 mission in delivering our muscle dream interventions for children and young people like Mikey here with muscular dystrophy across the UK. And once again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for your generosity. So breaking news, here we go. Well, actually, we don't have much breaking news this evening, but here's the diary date alert for our next show, which will take place on Monday, the 26th of September, when we'll be going live at the usual time of 7:30 p.m. And all I can say to you is watch this space as to who our next show guest is going to be. Suffice to say that, like all our guests, I can promise you this, that it's going to be another fascinating conversation. So once again, on behalf of the Muscle Help Foundation charity, muscle-tastic thanks to tonight's guest, Aaron Phipps, and to tonight's studio lead, to Grace and Lindsay. Thank you so much to both of you for once again making it all happen behind the scenes. For now, have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.